Hello ladies and gentlemen, we're back here for another Python tutorial. Today we're going to be learning about if statements. And so if else statements are nice if you have a certain outcome you want to have happen depending on different circumstances that you have programmed in to your project. And so for example, if we wanted to make a program where we're trying to choose a number, and if we guess the number, it prints one thing, and if we guess it wrong, it prints another thing. So that's what we're going to do with this. At the top I have x is equal to, and then int because we're going to be guessing numbers here, and then input because the user is going to be entering in something that it's going to be storing for us. So x is equal to the input, and it's going to ask us guess my number. And then underneath that we have our if statement. So if x is equal to 5, and when you're doing it in this sense with an if statement, x is going to have two equals. Two equals means is equal to. So if x is equal to 5, colon, and then underneath and tabbed over, print, you guessed my number. So that's our if statement. Now if anything else, if we don't guess 5, if we guess anything not equal to 5, else, colon, print, you guessed wrong. So we're going to try this over with our command prompt and type in py test.py, the name of our program, and guess my number. 5, you guessed my number. If I do py test py again, I guess something else. 55, you guessed wrong. Alright, so we can add to this too. We can go underneath and we can put more if statements in this. So if x is less than 5, print, you guessed too low. If x is greater than 5, you guessed too high. And then we'll put a little message underneath that says print game over. So I'm going to save that progress, and I'm going to go back over to my command prompt and try this out. Py test.py. Let's just make sure the first part still works. 5, you guessed my number, game over. Okay. Py test.py. If we try 2, you guessed strong, you guessed too low, game over. Py test.py. And we guessed 99. You guessed strong, you guessed too high, game over. So that's an example of how you can use if-else statements in your programs to create kind of programs like this. So play around with that, see what you can make, how can you tweak it to do something different to help with some of your projects that you're working on. Have a great day. Hey again everybody, we're doing another Python tutorial, and today we're going to be talking about loops. So a loop is handy when you don't want to have to repeat directions in your lines of code several times. If you're doing something similar, sometimes you can combine them into a loop, and using one line of code it can do something several times. So for example, we have a for loop going up here. So it says for n in range, and we're going to have it print a number through the range 0 through 20 and print them all into a line instead of saying print 0, print 1, print 2, and so forth like that. So with this 2 lines here of code, or with this one section of code, I can go over to my command prompt, py test.py, and then it prints 20 things, 20 items 0 through 19, because it starts with 0 with the range, and does that with that little of code right there. Alright, the other thing that we can do is we can have a while loop. And while loops are nice because then you can technically have your program kind of go on infinitely. And so what I did here is, and we'll talk more about this later, but I did from random import random integer because we want to generate a random number with this, and I made a dice rolling simulator. And so it's going to pick a random value within a certain range. And so then I am printing on, do you want to roll the dice? Yes. Y for yes, N for no. and then I have answer is equal to input, and then we have while answer dot lower, because I don't want to mess up if they have a capital Y or lower y. If the answer is equal to y, then we'll print you rolled a and then our random integer, which is between 1 and 6. And then since this is a while, the other thing that can say after that is I want it to say roll again, yes or no, and then the answer for that will be our input. And then underneath that I want to say, okay, we'll put the dice away if we decide to not roll again. Okay, so as long as the answer is yes, we'll keep looping through our dice rolling simulator, and if the answer is no, then we'll say okay, and then we'll end it. So potentially the program could last forever, as if we want to keep rolling. All right, so let's try it out. Pi test.py. Oh, I better make sure I save my changes. All right, pi test.py. All right, do you want to roll the dice? And we'll say yes. You rolled the 6. Roll again. Yes. You rolled a 1. So you kind of get the idea. And so it's going to just randomly generate this. Kind of a cool little thing to try out. Now if I'm finished, then I'm going to get out of my while loop. So I'm going to say no. Okay, we'll put the dice away, and then the program's done. So again, that's a few different ways that you can use loops in your programs to save you time. This goes on forever, but it's a relatively short amount of code for that. Try it out, see what kind of things you can make with that. You can tailor it to fit our guess the number game that we played earlier. Randomly pick a number, and if your answer is equal to it, and keep guessing until you get it right. Or is there a way you can make it to guess and you get like 3 guesses, for example? So play around with it, see what you can come up with, and we'll talk to you later.